Be stable. Be sane. This is not your average financial podcast, helping you think different about your money, your economy, and your future.
Hey, everybody, welcome to this Not Your Average Financial Podcast Live. This is the best time of week where we can all have a good time talking with each other and answering questions live with anybody on the channel. So, again, make sure if you're checking in on this and you find yourself liking our videos, make sure that you find all of our channels and like and subscribe and share. If this is helping you think and live differently with your money, your economy, your future, if you're part of our world, our orbit, we are so thankful and happy to and proud to be on the journey with you. So what we're going to cover today, you might already know that I'm, at least me, and I speak for myself. I'll let Evan and Brandon speak for themselves too, but you might already know that I'm not a huge fan of traditional government-sponsored financial accounts. What am I talking about? Things like the 401k, the IRA. However, and this is a big, I'm kind of throwing this out there. Let's like chum in the waters for these awesome dudes on the call here. But I think I've figured out at least one special, unique, but incredible loophole in one recently announced government financial account that could change everything for yourself and your kids and your grandkids. So I just want to paint that picture in 10 seconds. Then I'm going to pass the ball over to Brandon to introduce himself. I want you to imagine a 19-year-old walks into the bank in 2045 with a $100,000 Roth IRA that was started as a simple Trump account, and he opens up a fixed index annuity with Evan, Brandon, or myself. And then fast forward then, that 19-year-old is now 65 years old in the far distant future, and he's enjoying a hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, $410,000 a year of tax-free income for life guaranteed. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. How can we take I think a flawed concept, the Trump account, and turn it into something that could be worth millions, specifically $12.3 million for your kids. So that's with that out of the way. Mr. Brandon Neely, welcome to the show, sir. Tell us who you are, where you're calling in from, and how we can get to know who you are and your channels and so forth. Oh, but he's muted. Maybe I'll pass the ball over to Evan while Brandon works on the mute. Evan, Mr. Evan Greathouse. Oh, okay, Brandon, go for it, man. Go for it, Brandon.
I was mute because that's what we do when we're on live, just in case.
That's very respectful. Thank you very much.
So Brandon at Live Counterflow. I believe that oftentimes the system is built to keep us in slavery, right? In a lot of ways. And a lot of times we want to find the flow that works for us, not for somebody else. And so Live Counterflow is really about, the other way of thinking, right? The flow is rigged against us. And so we'll talk about that today, but Live Counterflow is us, and it's exciting to be here. Mark.
Mr. Evan Greathouse, sir, tell us a bit about yourself and your business and the work you do for clients.
Yeah, I'm Evan Greathouse, and my business is called Greathouse Financial Solutions, and I'm just here wanting to try and make a difference in people's lives financially, because there's a lot of different ways that you can use your money, and everybody has a plan for it. And my goal is to help everybody create a plan that's theirs, not somebody else's plan. Because if you have to choose between your plan or somebody else's plan for your wealth, who would you rather have do it? maybe some of you guys are probably saying, I need somebody else to do that. I'm not saying like manage it. I'm talking about putting your money in such a way that you can actually access it in ways that are meaningful to you, and ways that are efficient, that they're not going to get dinged with fees just because you're not old enough to use it yet, in ways that protect it from creditors and predators. It is an amazing tool, this strategy, the bank on yourself strategy, and you are able to finally take back control of your finances, create a game plan that works for you and not for somebody else.
Giving me goosebumps, man. I love it. Let's finally be our own financial gurus for ourselves instead of out agency and our personal control and certainty to people who may not have our best interest at heart. So that's cool. So guys, welcome. And we want to hear from you. If you're watching, please put in the comments where you're calling in or listening in or watching in from. So you hopefully can see those comments popping up, and we will do our best to answer them if we see comments or questions ready to go. Like I see Mr. Jay, I will say hi, Jay. Welcome, Jay. Great to see you. You're an awesome dude as well, my friend. Three wild and crazy guys, and now we got a fourth one. So good to see you, sir. And I want to bring in just a few like little tastes of what's going on in the average financial media. And I will share my first one here myself, and then let you take the second one, and then if you want to take the third one. So this is the first piece. The first is that Americans believe now that they're going to need $1.4 million to retire. $1.4 million to retire. That's up more than $200,000 in 1 year. Okay, so that's faster than the savings rate can keep up. In other words, so it's up 200 grand in a single year. This is according to a Northwestern Mutual 2026 Planning and Progress study. They polled with the Harris poll. They polled 4,375 adults to find that magic number where Americans believe that they need to retire comfortably. It went from 1.2 to 1.46 million dollars. That's up 15% from last year, and higher than the year before as well. Higher net worth Americans, people who have more than $1 million already invested, say they need 2.6 million to retire comfortably. Now, again, 46% of Americans say they don't expect to be financially prepared for retirement, and 48% believe that they'll be likely or somewhat likely to outlive their savings. So that's a huge gap between what people think they need and what people actually have, and it's widening faster. Every year it grows bigger and bigger, and the savings gap is getting wider and wider, meaning less people feel like they'll ever be able to comfortably retire. Give me an angle on this, Evan. Does this mean we're in our last throes as a republic, that we're about to go into Mad Max style, Lord of the Flies style scenario, or what's our possibility here?
I think a lot of people might think that would be kind of fun, scary, but fun or whatever, but not me. I'm not one of them. I would much rather avoid that at whatever costs possible. But no, I think this is actually a very big problem that we've got to figure out how to combat in each of our own wealth building strategies. Kind of like I was talking about earlier. The traditional methods are not gonna get you where you need to go, and so that's maybe a likely scenario that could play out if we don't start trying to branch outside of traditional thinking. I don't know if that makes all the sense that it did in my head, but that's kind of my take on it. We're going to have to start figuring something else out.
It is kind of ironic to me that Northwestern Mutual designated April Fool's Day as 401k Day. I just think that should tell us everything about the 401k. That it's an
Nice.
April Fool's joke, and it has been since the early '80s when it was in. Yeah, Brandon, what do you say, man?
April 1st is 401k. That is the
Yeah.
biggest joke in history, maybe.
Isn't that ironic?
Wow, I didn't even realize that until just now. That is kind of sad that the government pulled this big of an April Fool's joke on us. Maybe they're going to say, just kidding, here's all your retirement
That's right.
later. I hope.
Mhm.
Wow.
Let's hope for next year that April Fool's Day said, just kidding, there's a joke, here's all your money.
I don't think that's the case, brother.
I don't think that's going to be the case, but that's, man.
Well, when you're on a financial treadmill that just speeds up faster than you can keep up, it's no wonder that people would lose hope. So, I think this is where Bank on Yourself can really shine, like you were saying, Evan, that we have to look outside of the traditional models and look for things that don't siphon wealth off our backs through fees and taxes like a 401k does. So don't be a fool. I pity the fool, but don't be a fool. Don't do a 401k as your primary place of parking your cash. Who was going to take the next one? I think I said it, but now I've already forgotten.
On that real quick, that when they look at those graphs, it's usually the median or the bell curve, right? And it's the ones that have all the money on the right that really mess up the people all the way on the left, right? And so those averages make a big challenge. And so the reality is it's the 80-20 rule kind of thing. And I'm wondering about those people who have only made, they have 100 or 200,000, which is what I see most of the time for retirement, not 1.5 million. And they're like, oh, well, I need 1.6. I'm like, well, you have 1.5. That's pretty good. Whereas the audience, I think most of them are like, I need 1.4 or whatever that number was from last year. They would be happy if they had that, right? That's
1.26 or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is. I'm like, well, that's, but we need more. But it's because of this joke that was created in the 80s.
It is the joke of the century for sure.
Yeah.
Brandon, I'm going to pass the ball over to you for the next article. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, so you could share your screen.
Read the headline to everybody.
That would be great. Share the screen, because this is going back to the other article. It's kind of terrifying. S&P teeters on the brink. Technical analysis of the 10% correction and the volatile ceasefire relief rally. What the heck does that mean? Mainly, what I'm looking at is we are in that sequence of returns that we've talked about so much. When we lose money, and it might rebound tomorrow or the next day or whatever, but the loss is loss, right? When they say we had a correction and then it went back, they say those nice words because they don't want you to really realize you lost a lot of money. And so this is what scares me and why I think we haven't seen it break as much, is because if we saw what's reality, I don't know, many seniors would be out in the streets, either homeless or rioting, because that's right. I'm kind of terrified of what this is going to do, and we might not see it yet, but we'll start seeing it with the when people are retiring, right? Along with the other article. Anything you would add? I mean, that's just to see that. And
is this the?
I hesitate to. I don't know. My mindset's maybe different than other people's. I trust that there's a greater power that's in control of all of the things, and that that gives me a little bit of peace in the face of chaos. But yeah, no, this could absolutely be one of those devastating things that people have to just deal with, because there's not really anything that they can do to change it. It's going to happen how it's going to happen. And that's one of the biggest problems with this whole system, is that there is no control over how these things affect you. Yes, they affect you in very great ways a lot of times, but also can devastate you whenever you need it the most, like right when you're ready to have that money for retirement. You got to wait, can't pull from it yet. That just, it's tough.
I have a question for both of you. Do we know where the Strait of Hormuz, or whatever it's called, do we know where that is? Like, could you point it out in a map?
Yeah.
You think you
can kind of between Africa and Iran and all that?
Most people can't point that out, right? We don't know where that is. and yet it's impacting all of our bottom lines.
Everybody.
Yeah. Our
Right? I
ability
mean,
to buy
think about it.
groceries or
Think
Boy,
I
about
saw
it. Like,
yes.
highest gas I've seen in many years this morning driving by it. But you're right,
Yeah.
Brandon. I think when a single headline about a ceasefire could make the S&P jump 3% in one day and then reverse days later, that tells me that the financial system's on a knife's edge, and that the order of the next few months or years of stock market returns, it's more than just a theory. When you're in retirement zone, Brandon, why don't you tell us what's the importance of, like, what the stock market's order sequence of returns risk? You brought that up earlier. Why is that important, especially when you're in retirement? And
yeah.
what does cash value have to do with? I mean, balance that with what a cash value type policy might do for a client in retirement.
So let's say your 401k dropped by 20%, and you're in retirement and you're taking that money out as well because that's what you need to live off of, right? Well, then you are impacting not only just the negative because it's not going to grow right as much, but we're double whamming it just on that, right? And then from just on retirement, or it's that first few years right before retirement or right after that are going to really impact us. And so again, we're in the gray years, or for a lot of people, where they are just at retirement. And one of those headlines I think was just recently saying to seniors, what you should do is just work a little longer to cover it. And I'm like, wait a second, wait. So you're telling them they did everything right, but the best way to make our economy good is to keep working. Right? I think that's sad, and that's not really taking care of our seniors in the first place, right? Or
Sure.
our young people, because
Yep.
they want to have work and they can't get jobs because the old people won't quit because they can't. Right? And so I think there's a lot of headlines that impact, but that sequence of returns, and if it drops, we're just looking and saying, well, I thought I was going to have this, but now I have this. And that happened in 2008. And I think it's close, if not already happening now.
Man, oh man, that's true. Love it. Well, we got time for one more news flash before we jump into our topic for the day and why it's relevant. Julia, our awesome, esteemed background aficionado for video and audio and everything. I try my best not to mess it up too much, but when she's in the house, things are going to move smoothly. So Julia writes, how many people are going to rely on their kids? That's a good question. And then she writes, are you willing to work longer for all of the stresses of the other side of the world, where we may not even be able to tell you what a Strait of Hormuz is and how they got it so straight? I mean, did they use an ironing board? What did they do to straighten this Hormuz? So what is this Hormuz, and how can I buy more of that? I guess, but no. Why should the something on the other side of the planet have an impact on whether or not I'm going to have to rely on my kids to buy groceries into my 90s? That shouldn't impact us, right? So, Evan, I'll pass the ball over to you, sir. We want to learn more about this vicious cycle index, and it's a term coined by Moody's. And tell us, what is this vicious cycle index and what's going on with it? And I'll pull it up on the screen for folks to see.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah. You want me to run that?
Yeah. Well,
Sure. All right. So
yeah,
I'm
are
gonna
you
run.
pulling it up?
Yep. Go ahead.
Sorry,
pulling
I
it
thought
up.
I
Go
was
for it.
waiting for you to pull it up. Yeah, so that is the it's an index that talks about how volatile the market is and just the fear factor behind it. How much of it is being driven by fear? How much of it's being driven kind of more by greed? And so this vicious cycle index is manipulatable, manipulative. You can manipulate it. How about that? And it is
Mm.
very, very much an indication of rocky times ahead. It's not smooth sailing. It's not necessarily growth. It's not plateaued. It's all of it. And as far as right now, the fear factor seems like it's very much more at play than the greed factor. And so this is I don't know. Historically, if we go and look back, I wonder how many times in history, like what follows the fear being kind of the more the heavy hitter in this index versus other the greed factor. And what is the economy? Um, how has the economy reacted? So why does it matter? Because there's been warnings of fallout in the war. There is a push to the country closer to a recession. Increased odds of downturn occurring in the future. Those types of things are all going to be things that we're going to have to just deal with. Like I said earlier, um, this matters to a lot of us who don't have a strong foundation. If you have a strong foundation financially, it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be as concerning. In fact, you might even be able to benefit from it because
Oh,
you're
cool.
well positioned
Mm-hmm.
for it. So those who are well
Good.
positioned are going to definitely come out on top. It goes back to that K chart, like that Brandon has been talking about in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, this idea that Zandi, the guy who put this chart together, Mark Zandi, the Moody's chief economist, says that there's going to be a 49% odds of a recession in the next 12 months, more than likely in the second half of the year, unless the Iran conflict is resolved. And that, again, tells a lot of people to be afraid. And then, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. I mean, what happens to your emotions when you're planning to retire in the next 12 months and you're going to have to include a recession into your projections? If anybody's got a significant portion of their wealth in equities, it's all basically dependent on luck and timing and, cooperation with the world economy. And again, whatever the Strait of Hormuz is, you have to make sure it's in a good mood. Like, what? And we have to be careful of who's tweeting what. This doesn't seem like a solid financial plan. It seems like basically a weather forecast or who's going to sneeze on who, right? So I think for those of us who have a substantial cash value that grows on a guaranteed amount every year, we don't really, it doesn't matter, what the world is doing per se. And your financial plan is baked in and works regardless of what the world economy is doing.
And can I go into just a little bit before we go into our topic? It's like this idea of both fear and greed are bad, right? And
Right.
we shouldn't be living in fear, and we shouldn't be greedy. However, the 1980s and 90s, apparently we allowed and we wanted more greed, and the banks are like, well, let's do this and that. And so greed was, of course, rewarded, right? We reward greed. We keep doing that and say, well, if you do that, then you can go bankrupt. You can do this or any of that, and it's kind of sad where we want to go back to the greed. Let's all be greedy, and I don't think that's healthy, right? And so even as I run a financial firm, it's not just about rate of return. How much greed can I get to exploit other people, but how do I balance not living in fear, right, at the same time, and to be able to be abundant living. And I think that's where we as advisors and our perspectives and our faith kind of play into what we do, where we're very different than just Wall Street saying, yeah, let's all go for greed. But the life insurance, in essence, is to protect widows and orphans, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
cost to protect them. And so building that system in place from the beginning says a lot about what we value. And so I don't want to be in the fear or greed. And as you're married, sometimes we go in one way or other and it changes, but we're supposed to be different people. And so that's kind of where I'm thinking about from a person of faith of saying, okay, this is the economy we're in, this is where we're at, but we need to operate differently.
Sure. Well, so well said, man. And from that perspective, I think it's a great transition point. I mean, for those that are watching, whether it's live or after this recording is over, we want to hear from you on these topics. What do you think? Are we headed toward a recession in the next 12 months? Do we have the capacity to resolve this Iran conflict? Or will we be still talking about this by Christmas time? Or what about the ceasefires that might be able to push the stock market up 3% or drop 10%, like we talked about last week with the NASDAQ dropping over 10% and is now in correction territory? Do you believe that having your money tied to those equity markets is a smart play? Yes or no? Whether we agree or disagree, we want to hear about it in the comments. And what about how Americans are now saying we need an extra 15% more in our buckets to retire comfortably? Whether that's $1.46 million, up 200 grand from last year, or $2.6 million for those in those higher net worth categories. Is that the number you would put down for just being a comfortable retirement, what you need to be able to retire comfortably? And what does comfortably even mean to you? Put it in the chat, put it in the comments. We want to hear from you. But for now, we're going to transition to the topic that we wanted to bring up today. And this is sort of I feel almost a little, going to be honest, guys, full disclosure here on a YouTube Live, I feel a little dirty talking about this. Here's what I mean. I'm sort of, I staked my claim here that government-sponsored financial accounts are dealing with the devil. And so that would include, the 529 plans, 401k plans, IRAs even, the things that generally are sponsored, written, and promoted by the government at the highest levels. TSA accounts, TSP accounts, 403b accounts, the list goes on and on. Now, and I'm willing to be wrong on this one too, but I did a little math on this, and all of these volatility conversations that we've been having are being done because there's a wildly gyrating market, okay? But I want to ask you guys, and feel free to answer, and I want our audience listening and watching to also chime in. Do you believe this is the end of the market's volatility? Is this the last time we're going to see the market doing its gyrating dance?
Definitely not.
Do you think? No. Okay.
I think it's going to get worse as time is faster. Literally 30 years ago, it would have taken us a long time to figure out the Strait of Hormuz. Or Hormuz.
Isn't that a ketchup? I'm pretty sure it's a ketchup brand.
We wouldn't even have known about it 30 years ago.
God bless you.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm being facetious, but yeah, you're right, Brandon. With information travels so fast, and lies travel even faster. Yeah. So I'm told lies get around the world before the truth gets its pants on. So we're told. So what about our kids? Do you think they're going to have it any better? Will it be a nice, stable, predictable market for them? Or are they going to be faced with the same market madness or worse that we're all facing today? What do you guys think?
I don't think it's changed. Has it over the history of the United States? It's pretty much always had both, like all of it, ups and downs, twists and turns.
Good call.
So, but for my kids, they're going to have that strong foundation though. So if you're talking about our kids, like our actual kids, then I think, they'll experience it, but they won't be as affected maybe as others.
Ooh.
If I'm
doing
it successful.
Thinking about that with even my policy, I was like, man, this kid, I don't know about other kids, but he's going to be set. Life will happen, but he will have a better foundation than most.
And most importantly, I have to say, is we're not talking about set just financially. We're not. That's only a small part of the equation. Like the money is can be actually really devastating if not ready for the inheritance, if they're not prepared. And so it's very important to make sure that you're not just preparing the money for the next generation, you're preparing the next generation for the money. It's vital.
Good point.
It will break the next generation if we don't have an intentionality about doing that for our kids. So
Well, that's a really good point.
Before we go into the kids thing or that, I want to just share a little interesting story. So I had someone that was a little older, and they were acting like a kid pretty much, and they're in their 57 or so. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she hasn't figured out how to adult at all. And we're having to deal with the consequences of the actions. And my son said, and he's 7, he said what she's doing is putting her wants above her needs. She needs this.
And your son is 7.
Yes.
He said that.
And I'm like, oh my gosh,
That gives me hope.
gets it because he understands needs versus wants. And the problem is in our economy and in the world is we say, well, I want this, so I'm going to go buy this car that I can't afford at 12% interest or whatever. Whereas what we need is something different. But it's our job as parents to teach.
Fully in agreement with you there, Brandon. Yeah.
So
In agreement with you on
now
that.
let's go
And
into
I
what
think
the topic.
It all started with.
Oh, you're
Sure.
cutting out a little bit.
It sounds
but
like maybe a slight
go
delay
into
there,
the
Brandon. Sorry.
topic, and
Yep.
I'm not a fan of the title of this, whatever this account is. I maybe it's just because where we're at politically and all that. I'm like, I don't even know if I could put into this kind of thing just because of the name. But
Well, don't let the name. We're fans of doing this with Bank on Yourself whole life insurance. Don't let the name.
Yeah, exactly. So
ruin
then
the concept, but
be biased either. But as we go
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, and maybe I can be proven totally wrong on live TV or whatever. So let's talk about this. So we're going to discuss what is this new thing, this government-sponsored financial account. It's called a Trump account. Talk about the branding for this guy. He's got buildings and stakes and just about everything else. Good for him for marketing, I guess. But I want to talk about what is, and this is based off of our recent episode 449, the hidden power of Trump accounts, what nobody is telling you. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say, what is it? It's just a savings vehicle that was created under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, where you're allowed as a family to contribute up to $5,000 per year per child under age 18. So it allows the kid to then own it when they're 18, and it's supposed to be for long-term wealth building. Anybody can contribute to this as long as the total amount contributed each year doesn't exceed $5,000. The kid does not need earned income. This is what makes this different than a recent episode we talked about where the parents employ their child and then open up an IRA for the child. No, you can be a workaday W-2 employee working your factory job, and your kid can get a Trump account even if he or she doesn't have any earned income. That would not be possible with a Roth IRA because kids need earned income to contribute to Roth IRAs. So that's kind of a neat thing. Is there a bonus? Yes, if you happen to have a kid between 25 and 28, you get a one-time lump sum chunk from the federal government for $1,000. It becomes available this summer, and you're able to open it through banks or broker dealers. You can contribute to any Trump account for any kid up to $5,000 total per kid, of course, and it's all going into U.S.-based stocks and ETFs or mutual funds. You can't do self-directed IRAs. You can't do private investments or crypto. I'm not actually sure if this is exclusive or if there are other things possibly, but I know you cannot do real estate, crypto, or private investments. Okay, then it grows tax deferred. And then usually it's converted to a traditional IRA in the kid's name at age 18. This is where things get really interesting. Okay, so we are going to talk about why that's a terrible. So first and foremost, I want to say what I don't like about this Trump account strategy. Number one, the donors, the parents, the grandparents, do not get a deduction for putting money into this account for the kids. It's just after tax, you might say. And then all of the money in this account is taxable if it converts to a traditional IRA and stays that way. Yuck. I don't like that either. So you're not getting a deduction on the front end, and you're not getting any kind of tax-free nature on the back end. To me, so far, this sounds like a huge windfall for the government. However, can this account be converted to a Roth IRA? Well, yes, it can. Starting at age 18, the child can convert the traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. So step one, it becomes a Trump account. Step two, when they turn 18, they get a traditional IRA. Step three, if we do it right, we can convert it to a Roth IRA. Now, if the conversion happens properly, we can do it with no taxes due on the conversion. All right. So how does that actually happen, Mark? Give us the good gooey details. Well, again, when you convert to a Roth IRA, and the IRS just made this plain in a recent ruling they gave on Trump accounts, only the growth part of your traditional IRA is taxable during conversion. Think of it this way. If you put in $60,000, that's $5,000 a year over 12 years, and let's say your Trump account grew to $100,000 by age 18, well, $60,000 is your basis, right? That means $40,000 is your growth. So when it's time to convert, you would take, the half the full account value. $50,000 is half of $100,000. So you take 50 in year one, 50 in year two. The taxable portion, which is $20,000, half of 40, stays under the standard deduction each year. Now I realize right now the standard deduction is like $16,000, but I'm accounting for cost of living increases, and I'm expecting the standard deduction by the time your kid is 18 years old, the standard deduction is very likely going to be $20,000 a year. Let me pause for a minute. So what have we done so far? We plunked in $60,000 into a Trump account. It grew to $100,000. Okay, we're just assuming that it does. 40 is growth, 60 is basis. So far, thumbs up if this is making sense.
Got it.
Good? Okay. Then we just take our $100,000 and we slice it in two, and we convert half of our traditional IRA in year one for the kid, half of it in year two. The taxable portion stays under the standard deduction, which means we go from traditional IRA to a Roth IRA with zero taxes owed. Cool so far, right? That's pretty cool. I don't care who you are. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, what can we do with this Roth IRA? Well, you can stick with the stock market if that's your jam, but I would prefer and recommend that a kiddo at age 19 get a fixed index annuity. Somebody besides me talk for a minute. What is a fixed index annuity? What does it help somebody do, and why the heck should a 19-year-old even have one of these?
I'll take that one. Well, so it's an annuity is, first of all, it's like one of the oldest financial vehicles that I am even aware of. Dating, there are annuities that date back to 2,000 plus years ago. So all that to say, it's a proven strategy that has withstood the test of time, and in the last couple of decades has exceeded expectations, in my opinion. And so it's definitely something that's really incredible. It could make a big difference. An annuity is one of those things that you're thinking of your future self whenever you set one of these up. You're not thinking of yourself today and what you can do today. Kind of going back to the wants and needs. This is kind of a want and a need. You want to have income whenever you get ready to retire. You need to have income that lasts as long as you live, no matter what. And so that's what a fixed indexed annuity can provide you. The indexed part of it is saying that it is tied to indexes. Does that mean it's invested in the index? Can it lose money? No, the growth of the annuity moves in concordance with the indexes. And if the index drops down to negatives or zero, the least that your indexed annuity will drop to is zero. It'll just move sideways for that year until you get a positive year again. And so it is allowing you to have and partake in the upside of the market without any risk to the downside, knowing that at some point in your future, you're going to need to provide yourself an income or your loved ones for an income for many, many years. So does that answer your question?
That's a great answer, Evan. Thank you. Yeah. Brandon, would you add anything to what Evan's already said?
Oh, no, I think you got it pretty good.
Cool. So again, why in the world would we buy an old person's annuity product for a young 19-year-old inside this fancy schnazzy Roth IRA where we just got through going from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA with no taxes owed? I mean, somebody should be putting this on the front page of the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and all this stuff to be able to say that you can do this sort of thing. But even if they did write that article, Evan, I'm betting nobody besides the three of us and the several hundred other Bank on Yourself professionals that are out there would say, roll that into a fixed index annuity for a 19-year-old. No way. They'd say, keep it invested in the stock market, let it bounce around with all the volatility we just got done talking about. But Evan just said that if the market goes up, you get to participate alongside the index that you're tracking, such as the S&P 500. And if it goes down, if the market should crash because of the Strait of Heinz ketchup is having trouble 30 years from now, wherever that is, then you're not going to participate. Your kid would not participate in that market madness. And why an annuity? And why so young? Because, and here's my big idea, bold idea, I guess, the annuity income is cheaper the younger you are when you buy it. Okay, when you buy an annuity and you're 70 years old, the insurance company knows you're about to flip that switch and you're going to need that income, so they're going to pay you less money than a 19-year-old would with equivalent dollars, right? So it's sort of like life insurance. The younger you are, the cheaper it is. And so why not lock in your future income now when you're as young as you'll ever be ever again? That's the idea. So a fixed index annuity inside a Roth IRA. Yes, sir. Evan, go ahead.
I can push back on that, just trying to think of it from the other perspective.
Glad to hear it. Go for it.
What if I could just access that money and I could put it into real estate investments, not the stock market. I could invest in real estate and then I could provide my own passive income, quote unquote. I use that term loosely, but yeah, I mean, why would fixed index annuity be better than having access to the money and being able to use it for things whenever I need it? Because you can't really access the money in an annuity very easily.
Well, you can't access it in a Roth IRA anyway, whether it's going into real estate or crypto or whatever. It's locked inside that Roth IRA experience. But you can put real estate inside a Roth IRA, right? So your point is good. And we'll talk in a minute about why I don't recommend every parent just do nothing but the Trump account. I don't think you should do just a Trump account. If you do it at all. You might not want to do it at all. But hey, if you do it in conjunction with a Bank on Yourself designed whole life policy, where that pile of money in the policy is liquid for the young kid when he needs his first car or when she's going to college or whatever. But given to your point about real estate, if we talk about it being inside the Roth IRA, here's how I would answer that, Evan. And again, it's up to each parent's desire on what they want to do. You could technically take this money and put some of it into a self-directed IRA, buy in some real estate with it, put the rest into a fixed index annuity. My questions would be, is there any real estate out there that guarantees lifetime income forever without the tenants ever leaving or without property taxes ever going up? I'm not familiar with any real estate that guarantees a lifetime of income, especially not when you're 19 years old. Now, some people would say, well, you might get more income if you did real estate than if you did this old stodgy annuity. Let's find out. Let's do the math on that. So I went ahead and ran the numbers on a $100,000 Roth IRA placed inside that Roth IRA was a fixed index annuity at age 19. And let that just grow conservatively with a very conservative blended index. And by the time the kid was 65 years old, he was able to pull out $410,000 per year of guaranteed tax-free income
Whoa.
And if you live 30 years, if the kid lives 30 years, that'd be more than $12 million. $12 million.
Oh, yeah. My
Yeah, I'm
God.
not sure of any rental properties that could generate that kind of income.
So that answers my question right there of why would you go with a fixed indexed annuity versus any other option? Because as a 19-year-old, you get almost uninterrupted, guaranteed growth for your entire life.
Sure. Yeah.
That is so powerful. And here is exhibit A of how powerful that is. Like, that's ridiculous. It's amazing.
Man, oh man. So I'm going to put
I
this
think-
little chart up here to kind of give everybody a chance to kind of digest what we're looking at. I just read it to you on a little document, but this is a visualized version of everything I just said with all the details laid out. And thank you again to Julia for helping put this together. Brandon, it sounded like you wanted to give some thought, or I'll pass the ball to you.
Yeah, I think the bigger part with whether we do this or that, and I've told some people, literally, you might be saving for your kids, but if you're going to be homeless on their couch because you didn't take care of yourself, then that's a problem.
Good
Right.
point.
And so as I think about this or any tools, right, having somebody that understands what's happening and how to move the pieces, and most people don't. So that's why they lose money, is because if you confuse, you lose, right? And so
Totally.
if most people are confused, they lose. Now, our job as parents is to teach them, because I've seen people inherit IRAs, 401ks, annuities, and then they do a 10% penalty because they're like, Mom put into this. I don't even know what it was for. I need it to do a real estate deal. And so they take the hit, 10% penalty, and they break everything that was being built. And so educating, not just building the plan with the person, but educating your kids along the way is really important. Whether it's
Yes.
a policy, life insurance that I love to use, whether it's learning how to run a business, learning how this works. But what I love about this is you just really thought about what's the foundation? Income, right? And can we create a foundational piece without life insurance, which is why I like life insurance, is because it's that one of those foundational assets, is we're able to create a solid foundation, the Rockefeller method kind of ideas.
Man.
That's the thing. But also know that the rules could change. They could change the rules on there. Anything, markets can go up and down. Who knows
That's
what will
right.
happen? But teaching our kids how to think and how to have good advisors that can help them. Hopefully, that's us as parents, not as what we do, but as parents. And then teaching them how money works. I think that's where I see the breakdown. It can look good on paper and do all the right things. It's the stuff that happens in our heads and in our kids' heads that'll break it. And
Man, so true.
sometimes the market, Wall Street, the government is literally banking on us doing that, screwing it up.
Well, you're so right, man. I mean, we just got done talking about how April Fool's is 401k day, and you don't want your kid to be shaking his or her fist at your grave someday in the future because you wrap them up in all this money and then ruin their life because you didn't educate them along the way. Don't just prepare the money for the kids. You got to prepare the kids for the money.
Yeah. I think that's more important, and I don't see that happening hardly at all.
Good point.
And so if I talk to clients, I'm like, hey, I mean, I was talking to a client today saying, here's what I'm doing with my 7-year-old. Right.
Love it. And I loved hearing what your 7-year-old had to say about short-term versus long-term thinking, Brandon. That just gives me hope for the future, that there's going to be Americans having that kind of a perspective, 20, 30, 40 years from now in leadership positions. So way to go, man. Keep that up. You're doing something right.
Yeah,
So in
that's great
90
to
seconds,
learn.
that's right. That's right. So in 90 seconds, I'll say the concept again and then open it up for any questions that we have for anybody who has a few, and I have a few questions that I had from clients who saw this preview before we went live. Here's phase one. Step one, the seed. You get this thing called a Trump account. Again, call it a wet rag if you need to, but it's just a Trump account. That's what they call it. And you put a certain dollar amount in there. $5,000 is as much as you can squeeze in. Watch out, because it is a traditional IRA at age 18, and you won't have any deductions for it unless you do our special pivot. The phase two is the pivot, where you move them from a taxable IRA to a tax-free Roth IRA, and you do it without paying any taxes if you do our special method we just talked about. Phase three, you immediately get out of the market with that money and you put it into something that's going to be predictable, an increase for them. A fixed index annuity makes a lot of sense to me, where you get upside potential and zero downside risk, and you're buying that annuity at a younger age, giving them the highest payout rates and growth potential possible. Phase four is the harvest, where you're giving them that lifetime tax-free income, as long as the Roth IRA still exists, as long as the dollar still exists. I mean, all these things are assumptions, right? And right alongside that, you get another contract called a Bank on Yourself designed whole life policy to provide your kiddo with some liquidity to help them buy that real estate that Evan was talking about, or to buy that wedding that the kid might need, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Evan, Brandon, any other comments on this strategy before I pull this image down?
Yeah, Brandon's question. He was asking, what happens if we die right after?
I just wanted to say this is, as we roll it, and why having life insurance is really, really important. The Bank on Yourself side is, I had a client that did the Roth thing, not with the Trump account thing, but they had a Roth for their son who passed away at age 19. We had just set up a life insurance policy for banking purposes, not for built for. I mean, it was death benefit, of course, but we did not think we were going to use it for that. He died, so we paid out the claim. Still waiting 5 years before he can access the money from the Roth, because it takes 5 years before you can, even though he's gone.
Wow.
And so as I was preparing for this, thinking about that scenario, and so yes, it's great. I don't know when God's going to take us. Hopefully it's never a kid, but I've seen it happen. So.
Yeah, and how long does it take, generally speaking, Brandon? I know you've been helping and serving clients for many years. For those that have passed away, life insurance death benefits. How long generally does it take to process a death benefit claim once the death certificate has been submitted to the insurance company and they have all the paperwork they need? Is the insurance company going to sit on that
30
money?
to 60 days. It's pretty quick. It was really fast. I was like, wow, this is.
Yeah.
That quarter that it happened, it was done within that quarter.
Mm-hmm. Wow, awesome stuff. All right, we have one.
That's not. It wasn't 5 years.
So we have just a minute or two left. I want to hear 30 seconds from each of you guys. Brandon, we'll start with you, sir. How can folks meet you? How can they get to know you? They maybe want to hear more about that story you shared. Maybe they want to give kudos to you for helping raise the next generation right, man. So how do the folks meet you, and how do they get to know more about what you're up to?
Yeah, well, go to Live Counterflow. If you like to read, if you go to Substack.livecounterflow or something like that, you can find Amanda's writing on Substack. Just look up that. And then Live Counterflow. I think it's important that we teach our kids how to live counterflow, because the flow is broken and is against us. And so that's our passion. And then you can find me on TikTok too, of all things. Just look up.
And you got some great TikToks, man. Evan, Mr. Evan, how do we get to know you and learn more about the work you do?
Yeah, you can find my contact information on Great House, F as in Fox, S as in Sam.com. So greathousefs.com. And reach out to me, jump on my calendar. There's a link. You can schedule a free consultation, even just like a quick 15-minute introductory call to ask any, burning questions that you might have that you just really want to know really quickly. And then that'll help you determine whether or not this is even worth pursuing. I love helping people discern that. Saves everybody a lot of time right up front. And yeah, I would love to speak with you and get to know you a little bit more and see what we can do to help put together a uh, anti-fragile wealth building strategy for you that's going to weather the storm no matter what it is. So
Love it. I love the idea of anti-fragile. Both of you guys are so just, it's great being friends with you guys, and it's great seeing how you're serving your clients and helping your families at the same time. Like, it's great seeing how you guys are implementing this with your children and with your own families. It's great seeing how you talk to your clients about some of this. And hey, some of these lives, I'm still thinking it through myself. Maybe there's another hole in this whole strategy. I'd love your ideas. So if you're watching this to the end, you obviously found value in it. Please make sure you've subscribed and liked all of our channels. Go to everybody's channel, just subscribe like crazy, and then reach out to me. You can you can do that by going to notyouraveragefinancialpodcast.com. That's notyouraveragefinancialpodcast.com. And you can chat with me there. And of course, as you're seeing on the bottom there, you can also subscribe to all of our stuff. So thank you, Julia, for keeping up with all my commercials at the end. And thank you, everyone, for watching our live. We will see you on the flip side.